Let's go against the flow.
Ladies and gentlemen, what's up and welcome to Against the Flow. You're with me, Jordan, and I'm very excited for our episode today because today, wow, let me just say, I'm such a basketball fan. Of course, it has to be second or third. Jesus has to be first, but basketball, it's not life for me. It's like second life. Okay, but so today our guest, he is in Minnesota right now, and this guy has officiated over 1,000 NBA games, and he was a part of the recent NBA Finals. So, ladies and gentlemen, without further ado, he goes against the flow. He's a brother in Christ. Please welcome Mr. Patrick Fraher. Hey, Patrick.
How you doing?
Did I say your last name properly? All right.
Frahere, yes, you got it.
Fraher. Okay, there you go. It sounds like prayer. That's nice.
Frahere, yeah, there you go.
All right. Well, welcome to the program, sir. I am very, like I said, very excited. And I told you earlier that I have to turn off the fanboy in me because part of me is screaming right now. This guy is directly linked to the NBA. He's touched the NBA floors and interacted with my favorite players. And, so that side needs to calm down. Okay. Calm down, fanboy. All right, here we go. Just the DJ Jordan. Okay, I'll just pretend that I don't know you or the NBA. How's that?
Sounds good. I'm very nervous. I don't want to talk about any of my bad calls, okay?
Okay, don't worry. First, we want to get to know a side of you, though, that many people probably have not heard about or yet. So, 3 years ago, there has been, I read an article that, 3 years after you made this very important call in your life, and it has nothing to do with your calls on the court, but rather off court. And so the article says 3 years later, you become part of officiating the NBA Finals. So, what happened 3 years ago, Patrick?
3 years ago was the biggest call that I ever made, and that was the call to give my life to Christ, to follow Him instead of following myself. I followed myself for 43 years, and it wasn't working out. So the biggest call was to follow Him.
Wow, I like that. What was your life like prior to that decision, prior to that call? Was Mr. Patrick Fraher then?
Yeah, I was I was very self self-absorbed, and my story actually begins with researching the human ego for, and I was actually going to use it to teach officiating, because when officials get into trouble, it's typically ego related. And so I went down the road of researching the ego, and not to make this all about ego, but it is a big part of my story. Is ego is it actually means self in Latin, and it's it's our inner selfishness that always puts ourself first. So what I realized, or began to realize, is when we get in trouble as referees, with our interactions, it's ego related. And then it hit me that, wait a second, this applies to real life too. So because the bottom line is everyone has an ego. So no matter who you're arguing with or interacting with, whether it's your wife or a head coach, they both want respect. They both want to be right. They want you to be honest. And when they don't get that, then that's when people blow up. So it was very enlightening. But then, as I kept studying the ego is tied to our physical world, so it always chases more power, more position, more pleasure, and more possessions. So here I was, I got the MBA job, and I started chasing all of those things, because the ego, if you let it drive, will chase those things. So I was chasing all of those things, and yet I was still empty. because the ego will chase its will over God's. Um, yeah.
And then somebody gave you a book.
Right. So as I was teaching at a referee camp, one of the campers gave me a book. It was called Be a Man, and um, it was written by a Catholic priest. And he right in chapter one, he asked some very huge questions. Like you know, basically, are you living for today, or are you living for eternity? So he started asking the questions like, you got to figure out these questions first. Like, do you believe in God? Yes or no? How about Jesus Christ? Was he the son of God or not? Yes or no? Do you believe in an afterlife? Hell and heaven, do they exist? And I was mentally going through the list saying, yep, I believe. Well, then he hits you with, okay, well, you say you believe all this. How are you living? Does your life match up? And it hit me right in the face. My life did not match up. So, there's a verse in there somewhere that says, you can say you love God, but if you're not obeying him, you're a liar. And it made me realize that I was a liar. And that's it all came together at the same time. So the research with the ego hit the same time as I was reading the book, and it just kind of blew up right there. And that's when I decided to make the decision.
I see how it is. It's like your ego can only take you so far, and most of the time it'll get you in trouble. So now, when you come to the Lord, it's like what happens to that ego is, I mean, what is that ego? I mean, you can't boast about anything to God or say your achievements or what. So right after you read that book, I mean, how did describe to us your conversion experience after reading that book? Did you contact a priest, a pastor, or did you go to a church?
Well, I was raised with the Catholic upbringing, so I had 8 years of Catholic school, um, complete with the Catholic nun experience. Um, so I knew a lot about God. I knew all my prayers and my creeds, and my family always went to church. I had a lot of background, but as they say, you know, I knew a lot about God, but I didn't know him personally. Um, that that's that's that describes me. Um, so I I I researched. What do I want to say? I got back into my faith, and I started to um, to study it some more, and um, it became very apparent um, that there's a surrender moment that needs to happen. And I love listening to other people's surrender stories, because it's such a common theme. Like, at some point you got to make this choice, and again, people don't know it necessarily, that it's either going to be God or your ego, but um, those are your two choices. And so once I started getting back into my faith, and some things just are very apparent. I mean, Jesus is the way, and um, he says so. So C.S. Lewis said that Jesus is either a liar, a lunatic, or the Lord. Well, I haven't found a lie yet, and he doesn't act like a lunatic, so that left me with the Lord. And like I said, it's the best decision I made.
It's the best call you've made
By far.
off the court, and you didn't need to use a what do you call it, a whistle. Well, I guess, yeah, that upbringing helped you. You already know who the Lord was. I guess the way I like to share the gospel with people also is, well, do you know Michael Jordan? And they would say, yeah, I know Michael Jordan. But does Michael Jordan know you? So I'm with somebody from the NBA here, and if we were to ask, he would ask us, do we know LeBron James? Do we know Steph Curry? We'd be like, yeah, we know him. And then we'd be like, But this guy right here, he knows them and they know him. And, there's a difference, right?
That's a great analogy.
Now, I got this question for you, Patrick. What was the difference with the referee Patrick these past 3 years in the NBA court versus the Patrick who officiated calls? I hope I don't get you in trouble, but maybe there's some stuff you could share that I mean, maybe uh, I'll give you an example. Maybe you're more patient now than you were. You're more gracious.
Absolutely. Absolutely. It goes
Question.
back to ego, right? So before I wanted to be right in every argument or every discussion, I probably was more abrasive. I was um, probably at times arrogant. I probably didn't listen as well. And now there's a difference. There's a patience, as you mentioned. Um, there's more empathy. Um, and the communication has gotten better. Now that doesn't mean that like Christ wasn't a pushover. I mean, if go ahead and read the Bible. He was far from being a pushover, but he still had um, the love and treated people with respect. So it's helped me. It's helped me with my relationships with players and coaches and my partners for that matter.
So did they notice something? I mean, like, okay, the NBA players, did they like, Patrick, did you eat something today? You're such a good mood, or you're not calling 5 fouls on me today? I don't know.
I don't think so. I do try to pay attention to which players are believers, and I like to have just short little conversations with them if I get a chance, and just to encourage them, as we're called to encourage one, or have mentioned that they've noticed a change. And I try to use those as opportunities. When they ask about it, always be ready to give a reason for your hope.
So, for instance, I'm in the NBA. I'm Jordan Escuza, number 23, and you see me shaking my head, and I guess I missed some shots. I'm not having a good game, and I'm next to the referee Patrick over here. You see me. So, is this a situation that you see yourself in happening?
And I know you're a believer.
Something like that, and then it's a timeout or there's a commercial break, and
Yeah, those. I mean, in those situations, sometimes it's as easy as just reaching out. Hey, man, how you doing? And sometimes you may get good. How are you? Well, I always try to, instead of saying good, I like to tell them, hey, I'm blessed. And sometimes that's enough to, oh, you're blessed. Yeah, me too. Well, it goes a long way, because like when things get crazy in a basketball game, it's nice to know who you can go to in a storm. And obviously I would, if I'm going to have to explain something that's going to be unpopular, I would rather explain it to a fellow believer.
well, here's my next question. How did you get in refereeing? I mean, did you do some of this before NBA, like college or high school?
I spent 7 years in the minor leagues. um, my very first game, I was 15 years old, and I refereed with my father. And so as I progressed, my father refereed high school and college games. And one of his partners that he worked with a lot was Kenny Mauer, who also is from Minnesota. And Kenny wasn't hired in the NBA. Kenny went on to become the first NBA referee from Minnesota. So I met Kenny probably when I was 6 years old and watched him get hired. Um, so he showed me that this could be a job, if you were lucky enough, and I was lucky enough.
Wow. So, is this also something you've always wanted to do, or did you ever play ball like in your younger days and then you found yourself in this direction?
I played basketball through my junior year in high school, and my senior year, I had a difference of opinion with my head coach, so I decided to begin my officiating career instead, and it was one of the best decisions that I made. So I'm a much better referee than I am a player, believe me.
Okay, well, I guess this it proves you just refereed the NBA Finals. By the way, congratulations for that. We are so happy for you that you were able to do that. I understand not all the refs gets to do something like this. I mean, they go through a pretty tough screening. I mean, even if you've been in the NBA for 20 years, I guess. Um, yeah, can you share to us how did you land the NBA Finals? That's big, right? For a referee.
It doesn't excuse me, it doesn't get any bigger as far as officiating, or especially NBA officiating. Um, they take 12, so it's a difficult list to get your name on. And it's been quite the journey. But I got a great story that I'd like to share.
Sure.
Um, and I think the show is perfect for it. So it's the afternoon before my first finals game. I'm scared to death, right? And normally I like to take a nap during the afternoon before I referee at night, just to get off my feet and rest a little bit. But I can't sleep. So I'm like, what do I do? So I decided to well, let's open up the Bible and read the Bible, which I was reading a lot down in the bubble. So I pick up where I left off in the Bible, and I was in Luke 15. But before I started, I asked God to, hey, really speak to me in this Bible session. I mean, really give me a takeaway, please. So I started reading the Luke 15. I get to the parable of the prodigal son, and obviously we all know that he's the one who squandered his father's inheritance on himself, and now found himself empty and desperate, and decides to go back to his father. So I'm reading, and I can relate to the son because I'd squandered our father's blessing with this job for myself, pursuing my own glory, fame, and fortune. So I too found myself empty and desperate. So that's kind of what I was thinking about as I was reading it. And as we just said, I decided to go back to the father 3 years ago. And then it was really beginning to hit me that the two stories actually paralleled each other. So when I got to verse 20, and it says, and he arose and came to his father, but while he was still a long way off, his father saw him and had compassion, and he ran and embraced him and kissed him. Verse 21, and the son said to him, Father, I've sinned against heaven and before you. I am no longer worthy to be called your son. And I remember feeling the same way when I repented. Verse 22 comes up, but the father said to his servants, bring quickly the best robe and put it on him, and put a ring on his hand. I just stopped right there. And then it hit me. This parable is exactly how the Heavenly Father treated me. So after returning to him, he gave me the best robe of this profession, otherwise known as the white finals jacket, and will put a ring on my hand, otherwise known as the finals ring, which we get prior to the next season. So both stories are about redemption, and both stories ended up with a robe and a ring. And it was just perfect timing, because here I am before my first finals game, and God's telling me, hey, relax, I got it. Here's your robe and your ring. So settle down.
All right. And how did you feel well, how did you hear the news?
It was an email. I was out walking around the bubble, and when the email came out, it caught me by surprise. I didn't expect it.
How was life like in the bubble, by the way? I mean, did you ever feel claustrophobic or cabin fever while you were in there?
Well, we were at a Disney resort, so it was comfortable. But have you ever seen the movie Groundhog Day?
Yes.
Okay, it was Groundhog Day. It was living the
6
same
a.m.
day over and over and over again. Uh,
I
for
got
93
you,
days.
babe. I got you,
Yeah,
babe. Every morning. That song.
every morning.
That's one of my favorite movies.
That's a
but
great movie.
but a lot of us here would like to be you. I mean, in that Groundhog Day, waking up in a Disney resort with all our idols.
Yeah, the tough part was obviously being away from your family.
Mm-hmm.
During normal conditions, our longest trip when we go out on the road is 11 days,
Mm-hmm.
and then we come back. We were gone for 93 days, so it almost felt like a deployment versus a trip.
Mm-hmm. Well, we NBA fans. We're just happy that we got to watch basketball. I mean, it wasn't the same. It was a new normal, but the important thing was we got to watch basketball, and it was good basketball. And so I have questions now about basketball. If you don't mind, is that okay?
Sure.
Okay, I've asked some of my friends. Okay, somebody asked, are there really superstars calls that exist in the NBA?
The answer is no. The reality of it is, first of all, as an official, we get evaluated on correct versus incorrect.
Mm-hmm.
Period. So we really don't. It doesn't matter to us who's involved in the play because our livelihood is based on correct, incorrect.
Mm-hmm.
Now, when you look at some of our so-called superstars, um, they're stars for a reason. They're better than other players, so they're also more experienced, maybe in getting some of those calls that they deserve. So um, I think that plays into it too.
Mm-hmm.
In fact, if you looked, some of the superstars uh, probably don't get enough calls if you look at the statistics of it.
Okay. And by the way, that's how you landed your job, Patrick. In the NBA Finals, they reviewed your records and they're like, this guy, Patrick, he made some pretty good calls, a lot of good calls. I wonder if they looked at your call 3 years ago and be like, hey, this is a follower of Christ. We should get him because he's going to be honest in this in this finals. And we need that. So thank you, Daniel Ronquillo, for asking that question. How about this? Did Michael Jordan commit an offensive foul against Brian Russell? Were you were already officiating then? Am I was that how long?
No, no,
Not yet.
no. That was before I got in. Before I got in the league. Um, I think if you live in Chicago, you would say no, and if you lived in Utah, you would say yes, he did.
Okay, that's a safe answer.
I don't know if your buddy's a Michael Jordan fan or not, but
Can you answer who is the GOAT in the debate?
um, you know what? Another great question. I'm not going to answer it, but I will say that people, especially like people my age, I feel very fortunate to be able to have said that I've seen Jordan play in his prime, Kobe play in his prime, LeBron play in his prime. So I feel very blessed to be on Earth to watch at least the people who are in that conversation be able to play.
Thank you, by the way, to Roy DeLeon for asking that question. How about this? Sandy Bailong asks, NBA can't be rigged. Explain it to the doubters. Can you answer this one?
Oh, I know it's not rigged. Again, we are probably the most, not probably, we're the most scrutinized and evaluated officiating staff on the planet. Um, I know that for for a fact that the integrity of the league is very high. Believe me.
Mhm. Okay, thank you.
We watch a ton of game film, a ton of tape.
You get some memo that the next time you see this move, it's legal, or does Adam Silver say this is fine, or the league says it's okay?
Our training is very very extensive with
Mhm.
videotape.
If someone does a backflip and then shoots the ball while doing the backflip, I mean, like, how would you call that?
I haven't seen that one yet, but it's just a matter of time, I'm sure.
Okay. How about a Filipino? Can Filipinos, do you think, make it in the big league uh, first as a basketball player and maybe also as a referee or a mascot? I don't know. I would like to be a mascot in the NBA. It looks like fun.
Yeah, sure. I mean, if you can play, there will always be a spot for you, um, which is great. It's fun to watch. I think about 25% of our league is foreign players, and they add a lot to our league. It's fun to watch them come in and succeed.
How do you handle criticism or blame from the fans when they're frustrated with your calls?
Well, it's all about perspective, right? I mean, as much as I uh, appreciate their opinion on certain plays and their generosity in sharing that opinion, that's it's part of the job. It's what we do. But um, I'm glad that they buy tickets. This year's a little bit of a weird year, but we the league wouldn't survive without fans. So
And if I may add, Patrick, is there a difference how you handled this 3 years ago? I mean, before 3 years ago, you made that decision to become a follower of Christ versus now.
um, not really. I mean, it, our interactions with fans are minimal. I mean, we're asked not to interact with fans. So it's always been professional, but I would say um, now if a fan is if they're willing, if they want to have some fun and not just criticize, then every once in a while you do get a chance to maybe before the ball's going to be put in play and the ball's sitting right in front of their seat. You can give the ball to maybe the little kid that's sitting there and have them touch the game ball before we put it back. But um,
You can't give them the ball. If I was the little kid, they're like, Patrick, can
yeah,
I have the
you
ball?
you'd take the ball, wouldn't you?
How about that? As a funny question, have you ever got any souvenirs, or is that forbidden? You can't. NBA players can walk up to each other and ask for their jersey, and they swap. You can't swap your NBA referee uniform with a jersey.
No, there hasn't been a referee swap, or I'm sorry, a jersey swap with a referee yet. I don't see that happening in the future either. No, there's no souvenirs or any of that. So
Is that in your contract? You're not allowed to ask for an autograph and stuff like that. There's
correct.
probably pretty
Yep.
strict on that. Yeah, but I would like to see
Correct. Yes.
Patrick be the first to go to LeBron or somebody. You know what? It's my last day, LeBron. How would you like my NBA uniform referee for your shoes? No, something like that. I'm just okay. I'm just having fun here. You don't have to answer that. What is the nicest thing that a fan or a player has done for you as a referee?
I think the nicest things are when they appreciate how difficult our job is, and sometimes I like to remind them by like when they're maybe complaining. I'll just say, hey, when you're done playing, you're gonna be one heck of a referee when you come work for us after you're done. And a lot of them say, oh, no, I don't want your job. I don't, I could never do that. So it's nice when people appreciate the difficulty of it.
Okay. Well, I want to thank my friends online, Edwin Sotes, Jamo, for asking these questions. But right now, we're going to give a chance to our studio audience. So, studio audience, I'm going to ask you to open your cameras so that you can now interact with us, with me and Patrick here. So, Patrick, here are some basketball fans from here in the Philippines. All right, so here right now in a room, we got some people from the IPBL. Watch out. It's almost as good as the NBA, I heard. It's the Interdenominational Pastors Basketball League, which I'm
All
a
right.
part of. Yeah. So, anyways, represent, guys. So, I got some players here from there, some officials, some of our referees, and I got some teammates here also, and as well as players that I go up against. So, this is a fun mix. And I got some pastor friends who are NBA analysts. They were going to be NBA analysts, but God called them to the ministry, like Pastor Prince right there.
Okay, I have a question.
Okay.
Oh, can you tell us more about RefCon and what are your future plans for RefCon? You have a RefCon Asia, right?
Not yet, but I'm going to put you in charge, Joe. You're in charge with the rest of the pastors on the the local RefCon. I think that's a great idea. RefCon is an idea that I got 3 years ago. After giving my life to Christ, be careful what you wish for, because he'll he'll uh, he'll put a lot of things on your plate, and that was one of the things that he gave me, was that idea. And it's just a conference for referees, and ref stands for Referees Embracing Faith. And we invite referees of all sports, of all levels. If you're, everyone's invited, and it's all faith based. So we we just had our third one this year, which was virtual, and I hope it continues.
So would you come down to the Philippines? Let's say this pandemic is over and it won't be virtual. Have you ever been here?
I have not. No, I've been to my trips for the NBA. My international trips have been to China. So I've been to Beijing and Guangzhou, but I've never. I know a couple years ago they did a game in Manila, right, Joe?
You have any idea, Patrick, how big basketball is here?
Well, I just learned today that basketball is the most popular sport. That's good to hear. I did not know that.
Yes. Who is the most difficult for you to make calls, and who is the easiest? I don't know. It's very easy.
Well, since he's no longer in the league and he's not a current player, I can tell you that Shaq was very difficult to referee. He's just so big and powerful. That was a challenge.
Do any NBA players still surprise you? I mean, this is the big league, the best of league, but are there any players like you go, whoa, this guy's fast, this guy's huge or powerful?
Yeah. I mean, without getting specific, knowing that you're a big NBA fan, all of the younger stars that are coming up, and the league is in a very good place for the future. I'm excited about the future.
Spencer, go ahead.
This question has something to do. I don't know if this can be asked on the record or it could be off the record, but I think my question has something to do with the events surrounding the season restart. Of course, the compressed season, the bubble, and everything that was, everything surrounding it, the Black Lives Matter, the social injustice, and all that. Because a lot of us think that the NBA during that time was used as a platform for these advocacies. Now, of course, as a referee, the only thing that we'll see on your end is just calling the shots or refereeing the game. But how, as a Christian referee, someone who's a follower of Jesus Christ in this profession, in this platform, how have you dealt with that situation, and how would you be able to assess yourself as far as being a godly influence and as someone who would really shine for Jesus during this difficult time? How are you able to deal with that, sir?
For me, my approach is to try to take political beliefs out of it. So whether we agree or not politically, to me, really doesn't matter. I try to look at things biblically,
Mhm.
and the best analogy would be, to me, was the Good Samaritan. So when the guy was mugged and was beaten and was laying on the side of the road, um, his political beliefs were probably not the same with the Samaritan, and yet the Samaritan was the guy who helped him. So, we're called to love our neighbor, whether we agree or not. And so I try to take the politics out. And if someone's in pain, if someone is being brutalized or discriminated against, we're called to go out of our way and to help them wherever we can. So to me, that was the clearest way to look at things, if that helps.
And your kids, do you think anyone would like to be a ref? Your dad was a ref, so maybe one of them is showing interest.
I asked my son if he thought that he would want to try to do it, and he said no. And I'm perfectly okay with that, because I think you have to have a screw loose to do this job. So I'm happy that he doesn't.
Uh,
Okay. And do they ever come watch the games? Do they like to go?
Yeah, they've been to a couple games. I mean, they said they had fun. So I hope they did.
They're the ones in the
They did.
stands going, "Go, Daddy! Make that call!"
Yeah, yeah. I tried to let them know that the other people sitting around them yelling at their father also pay their tuition. So don't to be nice to
They'd be like, "Whoo, Daddy made that nice call! Yeah,
them.
that was the play, the call of the game." Patrick, if you come to the Philippines, would you jersey swap with me?
You got it.
Okay.
Absolutely.
Hey guys, I call dibs. Okay, I'm gonna exchange my IPBL jersey for uh, an NBA referee. I don't know if it's gonna fit me, but I would love to have one of those.
In the NBA, I used to watch this funny or bloopers in the YouTube, and one of my favorites is when Tim Duncan was thrown out. He was not involved or directly involved in the court, but he was just sitting on the bench. He just laughed, and then, to his surprise, he was thrown out. And so I don't know if you know that event, but were you the one officiating there?
I was not. No, that
Or
was not me.
but so in terms of officiating, how many players you've thrown out of the court due to infraction? Bad,
uh,
bad.
yeah. In 19 years, probably just a handful. So
Is
it's
this
not super common, but
is
every
this
once in a
BC
while
or
it happens.
AD? I wonder if Patrick has
What's that?
thrown out more players before Christ, or
It was definitely BC. Yes.
if Braun invited you to Taco Tuesday, you can't have taco with him, huh?
Unfortunately, no. That would be against our rules. Yeah.
Yeah, we can invite you though, or you can invite us to have taco with you, right? If we're ever in Minnesota,
Absolutely. No, you love it here.
can we get a discount for a game?
Sure.
Or would you
Sure.
let us in? Yeah,
You
you
be
take
my
us.
guest.
Can you take us in the bleachers, the locker rooms?
Well, we'll work on that. How's that?
Okay. All right. Well, here's some of my final questions. What's the coolest thing or the best thing about being an NBA ref? And similarly, what is the worst about it?
The best thing is the off season. Um, I love my time off. And the worst part is being away from your family.
Mhm. So I guess the players and the referees share the same thing, sentiment. Hmm. Okay.
Yes.
One more question,
Sure,
Patrick.
sure.
What encouragement can you give to the ref to be Christ-like on and off the court?
There's really nothing more important. And it all comes back to your perspective. Do you have a eternal perspective, or do you have an earthly perspective? And if you believe in a eternity and a salvation, then really, is there anything more important than getting that right? And the answer is no. So that goes for referees all the way to you name it.
Have you ever got starstruck maybe in your early years?
One time, and that was my first time refereeing Michael Jordan.
Oh my gosh, he refereed Michael Jordan. Did you ever say, "What's up, Mike?" Yeah, or I love you.
No.
All right. Well, thank you so much for your time, sir. And we hope to see you in more NBA Finals games, and more power to you in the NBA as you keep going against the flow. Well, thank you so much again to our live studio audience. Thank you to Patrick Frahere. We'll offer our prayers for you, sir. And we hope to see you here in the Philippines, and we hope to see you soon on the NBA. So God bless. Thank you so much. And don't forget, everyone, you could catch Against the Flow every Saturday on Light TV, channel 33, 2:30 p.m., like our Facebook page, Against the Flow Radio. And you could also email us at weareagainsttheflow@gmail.com. Follow us at Twitter at Against the Flows. And thank you again for everyone for listening and watching. This has been Against the Flow. My name is Jordan, reminding you that only dead fish swim with the current. So let's go against the flow.